Hello and welcome to bonus episode number 175 of the Culips English podcast. How's it going? I hope you're doing well. My name is Andrew. I will be your host and your study buddy here for today. And what we're going to do in this lesson is just hang out and spend some time together and use English. That's what our bonus episode series is really all about. It's like an English hangout time. And I'm going to tell you some stories from my everyday life. I hope that by listening to these stories, you will be able to improve your English fluency. That is my mission. That is my goal. That is what I am here to help you with today. Of course, to accompany every bonus episode, there's a free interactive transcript and a vocabulary glossary. So don't forget to check out those amazing study tools. The link to do that is in the description. Plus, if you're a Culips member, then you'll also get a comprehension quiz so you can test and see how much you are able to understand from listening to this episode. And if you'd like to sign up and become a Culips member and support the work that we do here at Culips, plus get awesome benefits and bonuses, such as the comprehension quiz, but really so much more, like our speaking classes that we hold every week. We have several every week, and as a member, you can come to as many of them as you would like our ad-free episodes, like our member-only series, the Fluency Files. We have helpful study guides and interactive transcripts for the hundreds of lessons that are in our library, and so much more. The list is too long for me to mention every benefit and bonus that you get as a Culips member. So if you'd like to learn all about it, then just visit our website, culips.com. You can sign up and become a member today. And a huge thanks to all of our members out there. Guys, we couldn't do Culips without your support, so thanks so much.
Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well, and today I am really excited to tell you about our new Discord challenge. This time we'll be focusing on body idioms, expressions like to get cold feet, to get something off your chest. I'm sure you have come across some of them before. And I believe it's going to be very useful because idioms are everywhere in English. Native speakers use them all the time in daily conversations, in movies and podcasts. But they can feel a bit tricky at first, and the goal of this challenge is to help you get comfortable actually using them naturally, not just understanding them. And so here's how the challenge is going to work. Every other day, you'll get a new idiom, and you'll have a choice. You can write a sentence, a short story, or even record a voice message using that idiom. And as always, I really encourage you to comment on each other's posts as well. Just, use it as an extra opportunity to practice. And if you're feeling a bit nervous about participating, don't worry. It's not about being perfect. It's just about trying things out, making mistakes, and eventually getting these expressions into your active vocabulary. And of course, I'll be there the whole time if you need help, have questions, or want feedback. So yeah, the challenge is completely free. And if you complete all the tasks, you'll not only expand your vocabulary, but you'll also get a completion certificate at the end. So, yeah, I think this challenge is going to be really fun, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'll see you on Discord.
I've decided to title this episode Time on My Mind. Isn't that poetic? Time on my mind. And the reason I'm calling this episode Time on My Mind is because I've been thinking a lot about time today. Now, speaking of time, I'm going to try and keep this episode a little bit on the shorter side because I'm feeling a little bit crummy today. Crummy? Have you heard this word before? I'm feeling crummy. It just means that you're not feeling so great. And for the last few days, I've been having a little bit of an itchy, scratchy throat sensation and a little bit of a headache and a little bit tired too. So I'm going to try to keep this episode on the shorter side, but you guys know how. Sometimes I'm not so good at doing that. So I'll try my best to keep it short. And I'm going to talk about time today, a few thoughts that I've had about time. About time. Okay, let's get into it. So, without any further ado, the first thought that I've had about time is thinking about the future, actually thinking about the future. And If you listen to our last Culips episode, I had a conversation with my co host, Cassie. And in that conversation, I shared that recently it was my birthday and my anniversary. So I had some celebrations recently. And the gift that my wife gave me for my birthday was a watch. I'm actually not wearing it right now, unfortunately, or I could show you, but she got me this beautiful watch for my birthday. And as part of that watch, it came with a warranty. I think it was 4 or 5 year warranty. And so, what I decided to do was put that future date of when the warranty would expire in my calendar. I think I set it for 4 years in the future, just so I'd have an alert that would pop up and be like, hey, Andrew, is your watch doing okay? Do you need to get it serviced or fixed or repaired or anything before the warranty runs out? Like, that would be a good thing to do, I thought. So I sat down on my computer, I opened my calendar app, and I fast forwarded to, I think it was, yeah, 4 years in the future. So that would be, it's 2026 now, 2030. I time traveled to the year 2030. And man, this was a little bit scary. I was getting freaked out looking at the future calendar. I don't know if you've ever had this experience or not, but it was just weird to look at the days like, yeah, there's going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. There's going to be the month of May. There's going to be these days and it's going to happen. This time is definitely going to happen. But what will life look like for me in that near future? We're not talking about a super far distant future at all, just 4 years later. But that's a long time still. And yeah, it got me freaked out. I went into this spiral of negative thinking, a spiral of negative thinking. When you just go like a tornado, right? Around and around and around. And one negative thought leads to the next negative thought, leads to the next negative thought. And I don't know why my mind went to a dark place. That's an interesting question. One that maybe a psychologist could answer better than I can. But yeah, I started thinking negative thoughts about the future. Like, what will I be doing 4 years from now? What about my friends and family 4 years from now? Will everybody be healthy and happy? I started thinking of some elderly relatives that I have. Are they going to be around 4 years from now? Scary to think about, but who knows? Anything can happen. What about my home where I'm living? Will I still be in this home 4 years from now, or will I live in a different place? What about my career? Will I be making Culips podcasts 4 years from now? I mean, who knows, right? I hope all of these things are going to be okay. I hope that nothing bad will happen to me or my home or my career or anything like this, but you never know. And so just looking forward in the future in my calendar app really got me thinking about that. And yeah, that was the first thought that I had on time. I think it was a good experience. I'd encourage you too. Maybe look in your calendar at a future date and just see what kind of thoughts come up in your mind and think about it a little bit. I think maybe I'm going to try to appreciate the present moment a little bit more, just because it put the future in perspective to see it written on the app like that. Now, for my second time thought, we're traveling back in time. And recently, I believe it was on YouTube, I saw a YouTube short video about this English composer named Thomas Tallis. Thomas Tallis. Do you know who Thomas Tallis is? Have you ever heard about him? If you're like me, you had no idea. I didn't know who Thomas Tallis was. And in the reel, this is why it caught my attention. The reel was saying that the band Radiohead, very famous rock band from the UK, the creator of the reel was arguing that Radiohead aren't as original as you think, and that actually they took great inspiration from this earlier composer named Thomas Tallis. And so that caught my attention, and I went, really? Okay, well, I should go listen to Thomas Tallis because I am a Radiohead fan. And so I wanted to hear, where is that inspiration that they got? Where did that come from? First of all, I started by Wikipediaing Thomas Tallis to see who he was and to get some info about him. And then I went to my music app. I use Apple Music and I searched for Thomas Tallis and I started listening to some of his songs. And guys, this was another like really freaky experience. I felt like I almost time traveled back to the era of Thomas Tallis. So I made a few notes here to give you some information about him. And yeah, let's learn about this guy, Thomas Tallis. So he was born in 1505, the year 1505, and he died in 1585. So he lived for 80 years. It's a pretty long life for the 1500s. So he was one of the most famous English composers of his time. He was a central figure of the English Renaissance, and he served under four different Tudor monarchs. Monarchs are the kings and queens, right? So he was serving the royal family and I guess composing music for them and for the church. And he was, yeah, a big famous composer, probably like a rock star of the time. I don't think there were too many famous composers in England at that time, but he was the top of the top, the best of the best. He's known as a genius, not just for his ability to compose great music, but also he was navigating this shift in the religious life that was popular in England at the time, shifting away from Catholicism into a more Anglican style. And so he was very crafty and shrewd and not just a genius composer, but he knew how to play the politics and the religious politics of his time as well. And finally, he was also a super skilled musician and composer. And his most famous work is called Spem in alium. Spem in alium, which sounds crazy, right? It's Latin and that translates in to In No Other Is My Hope. It's a religious song. And so as I was reading the Wikipedia page about this guy, Thomas Tallis, then I listened to this tune, Spem in alium, and it's a choral piece designed for 40 singers who are subdivided into smaller choirs of five singers. So there's eight choirs of five singers, five times eight, 40. And so this was pretty interesting to me to hear this song because I've never really conceptualized or seen or noticed. Maybe I have seen and heard and just didn't clue in and notice. But like, I always think of a choir as being one group of singers. But Thomas Tallis, he actually divided the choir into these different groups, right? Eight groups of five singers. And when they would perform the piece, they would be in like a horseshoe shape, I read. And different renditions of this work have experimented with placing these mini choirs in different locations, some like in a circle and some in different shapes. And the experience of listening to this music, guys, when all of the singers are singing together and there are some parts that come in and come out and are in phase like that, and then at one point, the whole choir comes in. And when I heard this, it gave me goosebumps. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And I really almost felt like I was back in like an old ancient British church hearing this choir sing for the first time. And I felt like I had traveled back in time. And it really got me thinking about what was the musical life of people like back in like the 16th century in England. And that put me down a rabbit hole. I went down a rabbit hole learning about what kinds of instruments there were at the time because I think the instruments that we think of as being really common today weren't actually very common at that time. It would have been I, I I don't even think the piano was invented yet, like the piano as we know it today. There may have been like some earlier versions of the piano, the harpsichord, the organ, but like the piano as we know it today wasn't around yet. Of course, there would probably be some stringed instruments, some basic stringed instruments, maybe some fiddles or some lutes, some drums, of course, percussion, maybe some flutes, some pipes, these kinds of things, but like not the beautiful orchestras that we think of today, right? That wouldn't have existed yet. Of course, music recording is not a thing. So it's not like you can just turn on some music while you're walking down the street and listen to it with your AirPods, right? It would have been a totally different experience back at that time listening to music compared to how it is today. So I really went down a rabbit hole, and some of my research, let me just share with you about what it would be like to experience music in the 1500s in England. So first of all, it's a live only experience. There's no recordings whatsoever. So if you wanted to hear music, then you'd have to go to a place where music was performed. So where would this be? Maybe at the market, maybe at pubs or ale houses, maybe at church, of course, and perhaps at festivals. But just in your day-to-day life, no, it's not really something that you could just listen to whenever you wanted. Also, the culture of music back then was really different because now music, to a great extent, is quite passive, right? I think most people that I know listen to music much, much more than they make music. However, back at that time, participating in music was more of the norm. So if you went to maybe the pub, right? Maybe there's some singing at the pub and everyone joins in and you're kind of singing together and expected to sing. Like that would be not just the entertainment of watching and consuming the performance, but actually participating in the performance as well. Of course, at church, you would be singing. And then on top of this, music was really just an oral tradition. It means that it was passed down from one generation to the next generation to the next generation just by teaching it to your children, right? Nobody was recording the music and nobody was writing down the music either. And so this meant that there was a lot of variety. Like maybe the song that your grandfather sang would be similar to the one that you sang, but probably had morphed and evolved and changed as well. So yeah, it was fun just to live in my imagination a little bit this week and to try and envision what life would have been like at that time, at the time of Thomas Tallis. And for someone like me, I'm just a regular guy now. I probably would have just been a regular guy if I were alive back in the 1500s as well. And so yeah, thinking about how music in our lives would be different back then was really really fun to think about. And one resource that I want to pass on to you guys, I came across this amazing YouTube channel during my rabbit hole my digging of the rabbit hole, and yeah, I was thinking about this, like what kind of instruments people had access to and what kind of instruments they would hear and see in their daily lives. And I came across this really fantastic YouTube channel. I'll put the link in the description for this episode. It's called The Orchestra of the Age of Enlightenment. And I watched two videos on there that were really, really cool. One about a sackbut, which is a hilarious name, but in the video, it breaks down the origin of the name. So if you're interested in it, watch that video. You can learn the origin of the sackbut. But the sackbut is like a crude, basic early version of a trombone, which was an instrument that was available at that time and that people would have heard most likely. And then also, I saw a video of this beautiful instrument. It was a forte piano, which was an earlier version of the piano. And in this video, they showed a guy who's living in the present. I unfortunately don't remember his name, but he was a very skilled pianist, and he demoed this forte piano that he built himself, a kind of reconstruction of an earlier piano, and just so cool and a beautiful instrument. And man, this guy was awesome. When I was watching this video, I was like, there are some really cool cats in the world. Like this guy who's obviously a master at playing piano, because when he was giving a little demo, it was beautiful. Also, a master craftsman to be able to build such a beautiful instrument and then to know the history of the instrument and to explain it. And he wasn't a native English speaker either. So, those kinds of things don't go unnoticed to me when I see somebody who's doing such a great job teaching and educating in their second language. It's like, wow, what a cool guy. So I was deeply inspired, deeply stoked to watch that video. And yeah, definitely check it out. I'll put the link in the description for you guys to check those out if you're interested. So I guess this will lead me to my final thought here, bringing it to the present moment. And I was just overwhelmed with how nice it is to live in 2026. when when I was imagining what my ancestors had to go through, what our ancestors had to go through in the 1500s, and really the 1500s probably weren't so bad. Think about the 500s or like 1,000 years before that or something, right? What would have music looked like then? It would have been just drums. Maybe some drums and flutes and chanting, right? And so it's not even so bad in the 1500s, but it just made me so appreciative of how awesome life is for me now in the present moment, and just like how we can find information and find knowledge about anything, right? I had this thought, what were instruments like back in the day? And so I search quickly on YouTube and I find this channel, the Orchestra of the Age of Enlightenment. And then 1 second later, I'm watching a really high quality video about the sackbut with this expert, a musician who explains the history, how it was made, the origin of the instrument. He's giving a demo of the instrument. I have access to this world class educator and a master of his craft in just like the blink of an eye, in just a second. And so that made me really thankful to be living now. Although, of course, we have lots of problems in the world and life's not great for everyone, of course, but still, we have most people around the world have access to this information just at our fingertips, and it can be something that we complain about all the time, right? And can be something that can influence us negatively, of course, but it's still amazing what a crazy world we live in, and to have all of this access to all of this information. Amazing, amazing. So that was my final thought about time is wow. I'm glad that I'm living right now. Like it's a cool time to be alive. So guys, I think I'll leave it there. I can feel that my voice and my throat is not doing so well. So I think I should stop talking for a bit, maybe drink some water, and we'll call this episode here. But thank you for listening all the way to the end, and to hear me kind of muse about time. I hope you found it helpful for building your English fluency and building your English listening skills. But I want to turn things over to you. I want to give you an opportunity to be active with your English. We are hanging out after all, remember? And so I want to know what you have to think about this. It's a great opportunity for you to output some English, which is the hard part, right? The listening part, yeah, is not as bad as the output. So you can do that by joining our Discord community. It's free for everyone to join. It's where our community hangs out and we do practice our English together and grow our skills together. So come on over to our Discord, leave a comment, and we'd love to hear from you there. Or if you're watching the YouTube version of this episode, you could leave a comment on our YouTube page as well. That would be great. And I definitely read all of the comments. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. But for now, guys, I'm going to sign off. Please take care, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Until then, bye bye.